I was working with Accenture, one of the large consulting companies, and had an ego bigger than my head could handle. $500 million total cash value projects was the last one that I worked on. So I did big projects. And as the market started crashing, I did not understand why I didn't have enough work to do. So I had the opportunity to leave the company, take a package, leave the company. And part of that package was for me to work with outplacement company to help me find a job. I didn't want that. So I sat, well, they forced me to go to one of these sessions, and I sat around the table with executives from different companies, from IBMs and Accentures and Deloitte and Touche, and we sat around the table and everybody was complaining about their company. It was essentially became a bitching session about your company. But I didn't have anything positive to contribute, so I asked the folks around the table, what do you want to do? And or what skill sets you had, and I found one group that was basically did warranty support for a major manufacturer in the Dallas area. And I spoke to another group, another gentleman sitting on the left, and he was director of marketing and sales for one of the largest software companies in the US or globe. And I said, well, you do warranty and you do marketing, why don't we just get together and start a company, and worst case, we'll have something on our resume to talk about. Best case scenario, we'll have business. So the guys really started getting in and said, well, you know, the work we were doing for the company, for the manufacturing company, that got outsourced, and we were warranty people, and the light bulb went over my head, thinking, well, if the work was outsourced, products were already sold, so somebody's doing that warranty. So that outsourced work, you can go to them and say, we are the in-house people that were doing it before. You cleaned your balance sheets and laid off a whole bunch of people to make your balance sheet look good, but the work is still there, and you're using inefficient methods. Why don't we do it efficiently for you? And using, you know, we are your neighbors, we're the guys that build these policies and procedures and the product lines and the support models and whatnot. So essentially that whole bitching session became kind of an entrepreneurial session right on that table. So they all looked at me and said, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I don't know, I'm just unemployed as you guys looking for a job. So, well, why don't you register a company and we'll work for you? So I registered a company, but I said, I have no money to pay you guys. I said, well, you don't have to pay us, we're looking for a job. We have a white space in our resume, can you help us fill that white space? I said, what do you mean? Like, well, give us a job title that we are your director of warranty support. And that will fill a gap in our resume so we look competitive when we apply for jobs. In return for getting that title, we will write up what those products do and how to provide support for them, and basically create a methodology and whatnot. And if your project hits, we'll work for you. And if your project doesn't hit, we have our white space filled, and we will, you know, we can use this as a discussion starter for our interviews. So it became, so overnight, I had, you know, 20 people on a virtual bench, a sales guy who was full commission, and we started doing things, and we had to get things done. So I registered the company. I didn't know what an S Corp was. I wrote the document myself, created shares, and started doing things, made mistakes in the process, and I'm still making mistakes today. So my intent was to create value for qualified people that are out in the market that feel like they're orphans, waiting for somebody to walk into the orphanage to hand them a job. And I said, you guys are strong enough yourself and have so many different strong capabilities that if you get together, you can create something. So that was the basic start, and we went up to about 250 members at one point. As I was helping these people, there were many different ideas came up. There was a gentleman who had to refresh his skill set. He went through an interview process, was not hired, called me up complaining, well, I did not get the job because the director didn't feel like, or the VP didn't feel like I was technical enough, and I was talking to the VP, so I didn't want to be technical. So I said, are you technical? He said, yeah. I said, why don't you put together a class? I will get the students for you. You write an email back to that company saying, well, I am technical. By the way, I'm so technical, I'm delivering a class on this subject, on the technology. So I helped the students get into a free class. I helped the guy get the qualification for his resume and for his interview. And he replied back. He got a second interview for the final interview, and he got that job. He's still one of my best friends. So the whole intent was to create something from scratch. There was not a lot of funding required. I did all the IT myself. But as I was talking to Quintai, I lost faith in myself because I just had never done such a big thing myself. What I was starting to build, I felt, was a global consulting company with a grassroots level. Because the technology is so cheap, and today your children and my children can talk to their peers in any country, and our parents would have never thought about that. That ability puts us all together to work on things across borders. I had people reach out to me from India that wanted to join this group because they could say on their resume they're working with a US-based company doing some type of work. And they wanted some kind of a engagement with that, and at the worst case, it would have given them talking points. And at the best case, would have won something. I got some salespeople that were unemployed, and I said, well, if you really believe in your sales capabilities, come sell the capabilities of these guys that know technology or finance. And I have one gentleman, again, right here, he knew about IFRS, for example. You know, IFRS is a new finance thingies that are coming down the pike on getting IFRS compliant with your finance. I said, well, once you put together a class, worst case, you'll become the domain expert of MirGroup in your resume. And when you meet with Charles for a job, you can say, you know, when he compares you with an unemployed person versus somebody who is actively doing something, he would prefer something that has more to offer or is proactively doing stuff. So folks who joined us, then what we started doing was putting teams together and going after big projects. I went to a major retailer, equivalent of Best Buy, and I said, why don't you help these people get jobs? And by the way, the guy that I talked to at this company was an alumni of MirGroup. So to get us in and get a project in front of him, so we started talking about how we are going to put a project together. One of the guys and the unemployed guys that I was working with was a project manager. He said, why don't you put together a plan on how we're going to do the sale? Here's a sales guy, here's a delivery guy, here's a HR guy, all get together. We lost that deal, but in the process, we had great bragging rights to talk about. What I wanted to take it to the next level and actually start getting work. So the company that I started building is called MirGroup. It works with the unemployed, and it was a perfect timing of when I created it by accident, is when there were a lot of talented people available, not because they were not talented, just because the market was not there for their jobs.
Is the business doing anything right now?
Yes, it is. It is doing just enough to pay the technical bills.
And what are you looking for, and what are you willing to go for?
I'm looking for two things. I'm looking for your advice. And secondly, I'm looking for approach to either take it full steam or at a small scale, the pace. So advice on both pace and funding. So.
And what are you doing full-time with your time right now?
I have put this on a back burner, and in the meantime, I am working for a large travel and tourism company out of Westlake, running their internal IT at a global scale.
You said you've lost faith. Have you found it again?
No, I have not.
Okay, so would that be the first place to start?
And you are going to help me.
Here's the card. My question is, I'm looking at this mission statement. I'm still not very clear. How does your company make money?
There are three things this company makes money on. First one is helps with outplacement services. Second is consulting services, time and material consulting services, pull in resources, create centers of excellence where like-minded people can educate each other and train each other, and in the process we would sell their time and their services on a time and material basis. And the third one is, as we create, as I find, and I found a lot of entrepreneurs that come in don't have the money to do it themselves. They want resources, and I know resources. So if we can cluster resources around them and help them create their venture, these people put in their sweat equity to help them out, and then that becomes part owned by MirGroup. And then at a later point, we can figure out what the equity ratio is or what the ownership ratio is, but then help that entrepreneur start up their business.
So how do you get paid?
So first
Get
one,
paid a fraction of the membership of $10 per month.
second one, we get paid time and material on, let's say if somebody's looking for a finance guy, I have a finance guy who knows IFRS,
Okay.
can go in as a temp to help.
So you're an agent?
Agent as
Okay.
well.
And
And the third one is equity into long-term, equity into
so you're an investor?
investor, sweat investor with the resources that I have.
Have you considered focusing on one primarily for purposes of moving a successful business forward so that you, in effect, know what you want to be when you grow up as you start this business?
And I believe was part failure on my part is I was trying to do too many things at the same time, and I couldn't do all of them well. So I believe I have to just sell, from earlier comment. I have to sell something that I can do myself and use that as a seed to do all the other activities that create marketing and sales.
On your summary, you looking for starting amount of 300,000 to create a bid response team of 3 people. Are those bid response people, are they sales types, or are they just responding to a request for a proposal or request for a bid?
In the beginning, like any startup, there would be multiple hats, but I need somebody to be focused on the sales side. I have created the delivery capital for them, for brochureware. Just need somebody to focus on that. So it would be a bid response / sales.
Getting the professional help, man, you'll have more people than you can ever shake a stick at. Is how do you get that sold? Maybe get someone in your sales team to help you get the thing sold. But it's awesome.
Thank you
In
for your-
today's market, you're on something big.
One of the things that I failed at is the model, attract people that are proactive and that want to fill that white space in the resume. But the ones that are most qualified leave the fastest because the market picks them up. So I need some funds to keep the good ones around, the one that came in just to fill the resume. And if I can pay them enough to keep them around, and I lost some at C-level, at Fortune 500s, that if I could just keep them around long enough to get to the next cycle, and I would be their salesman, and I would be the delivery person, whatever I need to be, I'll be. But if I can keep them around, I know I can start something.
I guess my question is, how would you go about, is it just you're going to go out one person selling this, or how are you going to, is it going to be like a Craigslist where you're just going to create a website? Where's the...
In the beginning, it'd be focused on, like Pitan said, in the beginning, it would be focused on product sets that I can deliver myself. We would build, and we have a website, and the website is going to be very different. It is the Facebook of business. It's kind of take LinkedIn, Craigslist, and Facebook and put it together, and it would, in the long term, would be IBM without the overhead and the Accenture without the overhead, because I am building technology based on what's free available towards a global consulting and professional services, while these guys that have big ships are trying to cut weight down to compete in the global market. So there's a big space that I can come up before I hit them. So my intent is no overhead in the beginning, community engagement, and a website that is more about putting people together under one methodology and shared practices and methods and policies and procedures and legal documents on how do you do creating of master service agreements, statement of works and stuff.
Why do you need $300 to $3 million?
So you're looking at the scale, right? So there's a 300,000 at one end, 3 million at the other. If 300,000 is the bare minimum that we talked about, 3 people, give me enough bandwidth so I can, and the cash flow is at the bottom, enough bandwidth to get a sales cycle going. Professional services sales cycle go about 6 to 9 months. So I need that amount of period before I get cash flow coming back in. There are opportunities where some VCs that I've spoken to, they don't want a 300,000 headache, they want a $3 million headache. So I said for you, because they would rather have one headache that's big rather than multiple headaches that they have to deal with and spend on. So for them, the plan was invest, and I will put a team together immediately because I have the resources, and we can immediately get off the ground. And instead of pulling back the numbers that you're seeing, same rate of return, just high initial investment and getting up to a critical mass much faster.
Have you got a Rolodex on all these people that have passed through your life in this venture?
Yes, sir.
The ones that have jobs now, you still have contact with all of them?
Yes, sir.
I would think that would be your most valuable asset.
It is, sir, and it's just trickling in. I get maybe 1 or 2 FDA requests a month, but that's not enough to just...
And the second part of that question is, what are you doing you said you lost your faith. What is your plan to get back where you belong mentally?
I'm doing 2 things. First thing is I'm talking to you. And the second thing is I'm saving money, my personal funds, so that I can survive 1 year without a job. I did that for 6 months when I started it. It wasn't enough. I've learned a few lessons on what it really takes, at a detail level to fix it, and I hope to do that next time.
My question would be, have you considered going out instead of raising capital, have you considered going out and looking for charities or government grants that might fund this instead?
There was an option or a recommendation by someone to go as a 501c3, but the restrictions that came with it were just too much because we do want to make money, and I want the folks that work with me to be profitable. And like Charles, my goal is people that work with me, I don't mind if they're richer than me. So all those things, you can't do that with a nonprofit.
That's not necessarily true, but...
Well, based on the structure we were setting up, so I may be wrong in that.
Someone a long time ago said, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. And I think you've literally done that. You've got a 3-fingered fork here, and I don't think that you know which one of those to take, and so you're trying to take all 3 of them at once. Repeating the question, which one of those 3 would you really want to do if you had to drop the other 2?
So I think I have to start with one, but I can't, and that would be the placement services. But I will fail miserably if I just did one. And the reason I think is because that integration of the 3. But I understand you.
You talk about focus, and that's really what you need. I think if you take one of your folks that you've made a good relationship with, that you got confidence in, and get some help on putting together a business plan. Because I think put together a plan of action, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because I think you've got a puzzle that all the pieces are going to be a thing of beauty, but you need some help putting them together. And I don't think your thinking is, I think you need some help making that happen. And I think that could be a fairly fast and fairly simple process.
Thank you, sir.
Am I right in understanding that this business model failed, and then, or you left this business model because of financial reasons, and now you're readdressing it?
It is running, but I was able to make enough sales to pay the costs of letting it idle.
Okay, so is it neutral?
It is a new.
So what are you going to change to take it out of neutral to first gear? What is the difference this time that makes it successful?
Well, I'm going to talk to really smart people on the board, and
To do the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over and over again. So you know your insanity in the past. What are you going to change in your business model to make it successful?
well, first of all, having this conversation and the idea about getting...
We haven't got to advice yet. We're just asking questions.
Well, I have gotten enough advice out of the questions too, so thank you for that. And the second part is save enough money this time around, of my own money, that when I do the next time, it'll be done right, based on those experiences. So learning from you guys, and then saving enough money to do it right.
I'm going to save myself for advice, but I want to tell you, unlike a lot of the comments I've heard, I fully understand why you feel all three of these haven't, and I'm a focused man and believe on concentration, but I fully understand why you believe these all fit together, and I don't believe I'd give that up.
I believe what I've heard, Mr. Mir, is that you have a certain talent in being a connector. You're like the bridge that connects one party with the other. And you have a certain process in helping the unemployed individual get to a place where the person regains his confidence, get connected, get a job. There's your product. That service, that is your asset. And I believe that there is, and since you're an 888 provider, the government has a huge demand for services such as that, for that connector such as you. There are many RFPs out that you can write for. And since you have this huge pool of resource, of all this wonderful talent, that you can make that connection and make a very lucrative living for yourself, and that itself is a business. And I take it that you have to have all the three pieces in order to keep your fluidity of your assets flowing, and that can very well be, but you've got to have a source of income. You've got to have a product to sell. You've got to have an asset to provide a service and a value. So I would suggest that you spend some time working on that, and best of luck.
Thank you.
I would focus on defining the market that you want to sell into, defining what you want to sell into that market, and defining the customer that you intend to sell to and collect from. Because at this point, there seems to be a lack of specificity in terms of who the customers are, who's going to pay you for what you do. And as fundamental as that is to business, I don't think you'll have success moving forward until you have a firm grasp of who that market and that customer is.
Okay, thank you.
I'm more about focus and going after one thing and making sure that you've got your mind, body, and your heart wrapped around it tightly, going after it. I think if you present this business synopsis to a potential client, there's going to be so many, excuse me, so many options that they have to choose from. They're not going to know what to choose. And if you're going to go into a firm, you need to know what it is that you're selling to them. Going in with too many of these, just don't see it happening. Pick one, maybe two at the very most, and go after those and get started, and then branch out from there.
Thank you.
I think you should go to guru.com. Are you familiar with that service? They do a great job of matching people that want to consult with people that need consulting. And you can write in what you can do, how much you want, what kind of projects you want, and you can bid on each one. And there's actually, if you Google consultants matched up with users, you'll get 5 or 6 similar websites, companies that do that and make pretty good money. And maybe take the best of each one. I still think you need to find someone, an out-of-the-box thinker, a business plan to help you put together a plan of action. But I don't think you need $300,000 or $3 million. I think this will pay for itself right out of the chute. I mean, you can eat what you kill every day, and it'll fund its own growth. I don't see why you need any investment money at all. If you need some IT work, you can use some of your folks to donate some of that and get paid as the company grows. I think you've got a great concept. I think you just need to maybe think about it less and just get somebody to get it started. Maybe start small, but man, it's going to go well.
Thank you, sir.
I really want to buy something from you. I'm just not sure what you're selling. And that's not a bad thing. You know, because sitting here listening to them talk, and I'm sitting here thinking, you know, a couple of years back, probably in a boardroom somewhere in a hotel, a conference room, there's guys in three-piece suits saying, we're going to put together the best encyclopedia in the world. We're going to pay the highest prices to people, and we're going to make the best Encyclopedia Britannica out there. And another boardroom across the hall was Mr. Gates saying, we're going to do something different with Encyclopedia. We're going to put it on a CD-ROM, make it in Carta, and make it the newest and pay people for it. And there was some weird out, probably drug smoking stuff in the other room going, let's not pay anybody for anything. Let's give it away for free. And it's called Wikipedia. They're alive, and the other two are dead. And Carta shut down this year. So I don't know that you're on the wrong road. I think you know, Facebook, when they started that, it wasn't for money. It was, let's just do something and see what comes of it. So, you know, go with your passion. You got all three of them you want to go. But I would say, instead of coming to people like us for the money, the people you're placing, the CEOs going to Fortune 500 companies, perhaps maybe, like John said, get some IT help from those people you're placing. Get some of those people, hey, I'm going to get you, I'm going to do this for you, I'm going to fill that white space up, but you owe me. You know, be like the Godfather. Really. And make part of the deal. If you get to a certain level, donate part back of your income to build this and help other people. I think you got something.
Thank you. I've actually used that as an example in my conversation, Wikipedia. So you're right on.
Yeah, I had the same thought process as a membership thought process flipped. So these people don't have money on the front end and you're willing to help them, but once they get established, they should remember who helped.
Who helped.
So maybe you flip the membership on the backside and say, once you get to that vice president or executive vice president or CEO level, then you contribute back. So that was one thought process. The second thought was, I think the biggest value you have is the network that you're creating. When you were in business for 30 years, you know a certain amount of business, but more importantly, you have a list of people you know who can get it done. That's the people that you are attracting have 20 years, have 15 years of business, and they have that list that they have instant credibility with to get things done. That's a tremendous value. And last but not least, as John said, just from a banking standpoint, you're service-oriented. You don't have any assets. You should be at break-even faster than any company I've ever seen. And it doesn't take a group of people to do it. You need to be doing it. You should be at break-even very quickly.
Yes, sir.
I think the word you used earlier is that you lost your confidence, not faith. And the first thing you have to do is get over it. Because no one's going to follow you and no one's going to bet on you if you're not confident. So you figure that out first. But John and I don't agree very often, but I agree totally with John that you don't need 300,000 or 3 million. The simple fact is the cost of starting a business typically expands to spend the money available to start it. There's a lot of truth in that statement. So you don't need all that money from people. You don't need to be messing with investors. If you do go to an investor, you darn sure don't want to tell him, I need either 300,000 or 3 million. He's going to say, this guy doesn't know what the hell he needs. So get out of that. You don't need the money. You talk about losing people you're trying to keep them around. You miss a step there. You don't want to keep them around. You want to help them get where they're trying to get. And if that's to a job in a big company, God bless them. Use those that are around. And even though people are without a job, a lot of those people without big jobs they just got laid off from are not without money. So they don't have to. You're telling all these resources now you want to pay 3 people. You find 3 of them that believe in you and let them work for nothing and own some equity instead of some outside investor that doesn't care about it other than a return. We all agree, I think you've got a basis for something that might really, really work. And you just don't need money. You need to get your confidence back. You need to keep your Rolodex current and use that to make these things happen. And you need to go get started at it and quit worrying about raising all that money.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for the panel that you didn't get answered?
No, again, thank you so much for your advice, all of you. I really appreciate that. And Charles and Matt, you guys are great in helping others, and you have helped me a lot. So, here I am, a first-generation immigrant from Pakistan, sitting and talking to you guys, explaining the business model. Nowhere else in this world you would have this diversity and this quality of conversation. And so God bless what you guys are doing and what we all represent as members of this society. So thank you very much.
Appreciate your honesty and openness. Everyone give it a